Adam Savage here in my cave with yet another chapter in the ongoing Samaritan Odyssey. In today's episode, you will be witnessing me building the hammer from scratch out of chunks of bronze. Yeah, I wasn't sure I could do it. And also the grip. And I want to talk about the grip here for a second. While Hellboy has a giant sidearm in the comic books, those sidearms are not called the Samaritan. That is Guillermo del Toro's narrative invention. And in Guillermo's lore, the Samaritan, its handle is built from pieces of the true cross. Well, I hear something like that and I'm like, all right, what was the true cross made from? And it turns out it was made from pine, cypress, and cedar. So I bought bowl blanks of each. Those are big chunks of wood meant for turning bowls on a wood lathe, perfect size for making the grip. And I made example grip pieces out of each of those types of wood. And of the three, I felt cedar was the hardest. It certainly smelled the best, and it looked the most close to the part that I wanted it to play. So this handle is, I think, more accurate than the movie original because I have chosen to make it out of a piece of the true cross. Now, one thing happened way off camera on this build, which was as I was putting in the trigger, I screwed up. A really dumb mistake. I decided to measure from the corner of the cylinder hinge here instead of an absolute measurement. So I measured from that one and then I measured again from that one. And when I drilled a hole here and a hole here, they didn't line up and my trigger wasn't aligned with the center of the gun. This is a catastrophic mistake, right? I can't remake this entire piece that sits here. I have to somehow remake that hole. So I fired up my TIG welder. I have a TIG welder left over from Savage builds, and I don't know how to use it, but I learned enough about how to use it to do this sort of like big, heavy weld repair on this part of the gun and then remachine it and re-drill that hole perfectly. I lost a whole 4.5 hours to that debacle, and I wasn't pleased about it, but I am very pleased with the results. Without further ado, let's get started. The trigger is finished. It is a lovely piece of kit. I'm super happy with it. It clears the cylinder, which I have removed at this moment in time. The very last piece for me to fabricate on this is the hammer. And that's what I'm about to do right now. I have some bronze stock and I plan to make this hammer completely out of bronze in a couple of pieces. It's gonna take a few hours, but it'll be a fun build. I'm gonna channel my inner click spring to make this part. is what I set out to replicate. This is a casting of one of the original hammers from the Hellboy guns. There it is. And there is my replica. I must say, I'm provisionally very happy with this. I have a lot of cleanup to do on this, and that's what I'm going to do next. I have to tell you, this thing weighs a freaking ton. It's awesome. I think I really nailed it. I got a few more little details to do, but for the most part, I feel like I've got a hammer. Yeah. All right, I have my bronze hammer. I have the one I was copying, and I feel like I've gotten to 95%. I even have the texture on the thumb pad. I made the little striker out of steel because I thought that made more sense. How did I do this? I covered it a lot in time lapse. I basically broke this down into some shapes. I discovered that this long radius is actually centered on the spindle here. So I cut out a piece of bronze that was that diameter. Then I put it on top of this and marked it. So I cut away what wasn't supposed to be there. And this is part of the spring and catch mechanics. Then I machined a piece this wide and traced this design on it. Then I machined a piece this wide and I cut this S curve out of it. And once I cut the S curve out of this was the hard piece. Then I fit this neck piece to that. I milled out a slot here for the hole. I basically refabricated the pattern. We called some places. We could have had this, we could have made a casting of this. I could have made a casting of this, sent it out to a jewelry place and had these run in pewter. And I considered it. Reader, I seriously considered it. But it was about, $175 or something like that per. I mean, I don't make TV money anymore. Don't get me wrong. That's a reasonable price to pay for such a thing. But then I thought to myself, do I want to spend $325 for a pair of these, or should I just make my own? See, this in the movie is silver, and I'm thinking maybe I'll silver plate it. Yeah. Look, this took all day, I'll admit. It is 5 o'clock, and I started at 11. Not all day, 6 hours. Okay, so this is a 6-hour construction. It's not a final piece. It's not completely done, but that's fine. It's close enough. I have a couple more pieces to add to this puppy. And man, almost all that's left is the grip. So I'm going to set up a time lapse so you can watch me reassemble the gun, because that's always fun. Eventually, of course, we'll lay out all the parts, Noel on a table, and I'll do a full assembly. Because, we both love that. Here's some B-roll of the completed form factor of my Hellboy Samaritan. Okay, almost completed. I still have to fix that. It's so pretty. it's time. It's time to make the grip of my Samaritan. Now, here for reference is one of the stunt pistols from the film. The grip looks to be some kind of black walnut or dark walnut stain. This is actually painted resin, rubber, hard rubber. In the lore of Hellboy, the Samaritan's handle, the grip, is made from pieces of the true cross. The true cross was made of pine, cedar, and what is the last one? It's cypress. Pine, cedar, and cypress. I have played around with a piece of cypress as my sample handle all week, and it's a little too soft for me. I think I like the cedar. I'm going to plane both sides of the cedar here. This is a nice block. I feel like it gives me a good grain, and I'll be able to stain it nice and dark to match this one, but I like that it'll be made from the correct wood. At this point, I think it should be clear how I'm building this handle. I am not sculpting it and then carving out a middle so it fits into the gun. That way, I have found, lies madness, and I'm not very good at it. It's very hard to be precise. However, I am making this in 3 separate pieces of wood that will sandwich on each other like this, and then I will glue these together and carve them monolithically and then stain them. That is how this one's getting done. I did my sample that way, and I was able to knock it out in literally less than an hour. So I gave myself all day to do this, and hopefully that'll be enough time. Lots and lots of little tiny details just to get them right, but I'm slowly creeping up on it, and it's working out so far. The next phase, I have successfully used a Forstner bit. Got some new Forstner bits from Irwin, and they did a nice job there. And now what I have to do is I actually have to carve out this crap that, use a big milling bit, carve that out. Okay, here we go. All right, my 3 pieces of cedar. Smells really good. Smells biblical even. There they are, lined up, A, B, and C. I've got a left side hogged out a little bit. I've got the middle. I've got the top. And when I clamp this together and stick this down inside of it, I can still pull it out, which tells me it's time to glue this. And I know I should use PVA glue, clamp it, leave it overnight, and come back in the morning, but I do not have that kind of patience. Is that a little too much? Did I sell that too much? I'm not that kind of a patient guy. I'm going to use crazy glue. I'm going to use cyanoacrylate glue so that I can be working with this in minutes as opposed to hours. Having glued the 3 pieces of wood together, I've now traced the rough shape of the side profile out of this, and I'm going to give myself about 1/8 of an inch all the way around because insurance, and then I'm going to put those back together and cut the end profiles. Yeah, it's all going to be about profiling. So... smells so good. Ho, ho, ho. Just want to point out, there's a hole at the bottom of this. My goal is to cut right to the bottom of that hole. I need to cut right to the bottom of that hole. I actually have some wiggle room, but I'd rather not use it. And I made this cut, gave myself 1/8 of an inch. No oh wait, is that the edge of hole? I cut the perfect location. If I'd cut to my line, I would have screwed it up. Yeah. My intuition's getting better over the years. I thought I'd pushed record, but I hadn't. So I just did the side cuts on this, and now all of a sudden it's starting to look like a thing. There's my circle. See, this is, Alexa, stop. This is what I have to creep up on. This is a carving deal like this. It's just about going slow. It's about going slow. Like, you can always take away. It's really hard to add. That's the goal. I've got some nice grain matching across this cyanoacrylate. I'm pretty pleased with that. Once I dark stain this, it's going to totally go away. And it's, yeah, we're getting there. want to say something about sanding here. It is my belief that sanding is kind of an allegory that holds the whole world in it. When you are sanding something, what stopped me from getting around to making my own handle was I can't picture a whole handle in my head and then carve it out of a piece of wood. I have friends that do that, and they can somehow visualize that thing on the inside. I can't do that. I'm a hard-edged model maker, so I have to make measurements and plans, and I have to start basically chipping away at the things I know to do. And each stage that I finish one thing, I look and see what is the next thing that I know how to do. And the next thing is like, okay, measure this, look at this profile, look at that profile. What does this change? What does that change? Each of those steps. And I'm only proceeding with the next step once I understand what I've done and what I need to do. And it's not like I have a clear path in front of me. I just have the next couple of steps. But over time, you begin to generate something that feels like a real thing. And this is starting to do that. Yeah. And again, I'm staying on the outside of many of my drawn lines, and I'm just creeping up on it. But this is also, it smells great. But this is the thing about sanding. You don't have to know how to finish the project. You just have to know what the next step is. I want to talk about this creeping up on it because I'm at the 95th percentile here. I'm really close. And the last thing I did was I sanded to the circle for the butt plate. And I just, again, I'm not holding in my head the whole solution. It's like, if you work on your own car and I say to you, you're going to have to replace the U-joint on your drive shaft, you understand the totality of what that entails, as I do, because I've done it. But somebody who hasn't done it doesn't know that. And so I would submit that most of us in the carving wood camp are in the, I don't know how to picture that. Like there are wood carvers and amazing ones all over the world, but we're not among them. Watch Bill Duran's video of making his Samaritan, and watch how he also creeps up on the shape. It's tricky stuff, you know. I'm very close. We're almost there. We're doing really good. The handle. She's finished. She's ready. It's plain. I'm not going to stop for that. It's COVID, man. Just recording. The handle is done. It feels right. It feels good. I've made the cutouts for the emblems. I think it's time to do a little bit of roughing on this. Just because it's a slightly rough piece in the movie. So I'm going to take this is 80 and 100. Yeah, I'm going to take this and just give it some witness marks. Yeah. See, something tells me that these marks you can see in the these witness marks of like the sanding planes on this thing. They that tells, I feel like that's Richard Taylor. I feel like he's the guy that knows that should be there. All right. Okay. See it? Yeah. The handle has some Danish oil on it. It's setting for a few minutes. I have a couple of pieces to weather, and then I'm going to start putting stuff away because the next big thing that happens is final assembly of the overall form factor of this puppy. And I've got a couple more parts to make, and I've got 2 more hours. So we're good. We're really good today. Whew. It's going to be amazing. And that brings us back to where I started all these videos, with the gun in this current state. It is silvered aluminum. It is, all the parts have been tumbled. It mechanically works in that the cylinder spins and the hammer moves and the trigger moves, but they aren't mechanically connected to each other. That is something I'm going to do in the near future. Also, it's silver, not black. The original Samaritan was painted, and it's painted using a technique that I love, which is painted with a matte black paint, buffed to a kind of a metallic shine, and then weathered in the corners. I love that look, but I also wanted this to feel like a real sidearm to me. So I am going to make the attempt to chemically etch and blacken this entire gun. That is going to be non-trivial, considering that it's made of several different kinds of metal, and I want to get them all close to the same value. Those are some of the things you have to look forward to in the future. I will tell you, I've also been working on a case for this, on a really accurate version of Hellboy's case. I've been working on the bullets, and one thing I didn't realize when I embarked upon this when I embarked upon this project is I didn't realize how many times you take apart something mechanical when you build something mechanical. Like, I have rebuilt this thing, taken it all the way down and put it all the way back together probably 100 times. And there are so many little individual screws that I actually made a custom part sorter with all of the screw ports labeled as to where they go to aid and abet me in taking this apart and putting it back together without incident. Because truly, every single screw in this has been modified specifically for the gun. So if I lose one, man, I'm gonna have to rebuild it, and that's not fun. All right. I'll be getting to this as soon as I can. I can't wait till you guys get to see this finished. And if you come to the cave, ask me. I'll hand this to you and let you hold on to it. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like to support us further, you can head over to our merch store and get a poster like this one. This is my sketch of a gauntlet, but it's not just a sketch of a gauntlet. I use drawing as a tool for figuring out problems. And I have drawn this to help you solve the problem of how to make a gauntlet. I've made it a kind of instructional and pattern guide for making an entire gauntlet from scratch. But you don't have to. You could just frame it and hang it on your wall if you like. The choice is yours. It's printed on beautiful heavy cardstock, and you can purchase your own by following the links below.